Hi, this is Gary D. Tonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com. Welcome to our next episode of Image Critiques. It's a short week, not too many submissions. It must have been a busy week for a lot of people, but we do have a lot of self-portraits this week. That means a lot of new members coming onto the site, so I'd like to welcome everyone. And so why don't we get right to it and see some great images. Alright, so in the first image, it's a self-portrait, and I really like it. The pose is very nice. It's very well composed. Things that are supposed to be cut off are cut off, and everything is organized well. The lighting was really nice also. You mentioned that you had some hot spots here and there. You can see here in Lightroom where it's red, those are the areas that are overexposed. And so some tips for trying to handle that, there's two things you could do to try to improve that. Number one is, if this is an open window over on this side of the image, if you have some sort of diffusion material, like a thin white curtain or a sheet, you could put that over the window and that would soften the light coming through the window. The other thing you could do is to put a reflector, like a white card, a giant white card over on this side, and that would bounce some light back onto your face. By brightening up this side of your face, that would brighten the overall exposure and would help knock down the highlights here. Well, now that the image is taken, the other thing you could do is, number one thing that would help a lot is to shoot the image in RAW, because it'll give you a lot more control over what you can fix once you're in Lightroom. Because your exposure is not bad overall. You just have a few little spots that are overexposed. And you can see that in the peak here on our histogram. This is the part that is overexposed. So we can see what we can do with that by using our recover sliders over here. For our highlights, we'll bring in the highlights. And we'll bring those in as much as we can. And it says that we've handled the overexposure. I don't know if there's, because it's a small JPEG, I don't know if there's really any more detail there than there was, but at least it seems like we've taken care of that problem. Now, after bringing that in, we may want to bring up our midtones, because that also kind of made that part darker. So I'll pump up the midtones in this little highlight section just a bit, pushing our histogram further over to the right without overexposing, and that brightens up your face again. And other than that, good job. It's in focus, the lighting is decent, and I like the composition. Also, the image, I think, tells a story. You have a nice relaxed pose, you're reading a book, it tells us something about you. What I like about it is, it's not your typical selfie where you're smiling at the camera. It's a more reflective, quiet shot. It's interesting and it's different, so good job. Here we have a very artistic, a digital art type of a self-portrait. So it's a compilation of a couple of images. We have some toy cars in the background, and the main subject of the selfie in the foreground. I like the reflection a lot that you have down here of both the cars and of you. So that was a really important part, to have a reflection for both the cars and you, to make it seem like you fit into the scene really well. If we zoom in and look at the lighting, we had side light, and that looks good. And take a look at the cars. The cars are also nicely lit. The one thing to think about with the lighting on this kind of a shot, though, is you have side light on you, which is pretty hard light, because there's almost no lighting on this side of your body. And that's okay, it makes for an interesting lighting on you, but then when you combine it with the image of the cars, you have the cars lit from this direction on this side, and then the cars are lit from this direction on this side. So when you put the two together, Now it almost doesn't match because there's no light on you on this side, but there is light on the cars. So that would be one thing to watch out for in this composite. I suppose you could say that there was another light here in the background lighting the cars, but you know, just something to keep in mind. Overall, it looks really good. I like it. And it's definitely a fun thing to play around with, to try experimenting by combining images, and Marco did a great job. Here we have another self-portrait, and again it's good because it tells a story, showing us stuff that you like, and sort of in action, even though it's just reading a book. Some things that you might want to work on is we can see this line on the wall. There's probably nothing you can do about it when you take the picture, other than maybe find a spot where there isn't that line. But after the fact, you could use a clone tool or a spot removal tool and try to get rid of that line. Here in Lightroom we have this little tool that can help us to do that, and it did a pretty good job. So now we don't, that's one less distraction, and it continues all the way through the other side. So I'll do that one over here, and that handled it, I think, pretty well. So now our wall is a bit cleaner, and I like the overall shot. I like the nice tight crop showing us the interesting information. The exposure and the lighting are alright, and I think it looks good. It's interesting, I happened to see your profile. You had another shot with a baseball hat and a different expression. I'm wondering why you didn't select that one. I think that one maybe had a little more spark of personality to it, but certainly there's nothing wrong with this shot. So good job, and welcome to the class. Here we have another self-portrait, and this one again there's no exposure problems. What you're seeing here on the edge is a white vignette that was added here on purpose, and we have a nice dog, and we can see the interaction between the owner and the dog, and so that makes a nice story. And the exposure and the sharpness all looking good. So good job. This image is really good. The image of your face, the crop that you chose and the lighting on you, that's the part of the image that I really like. It is so well done, it looks like it could be a stock image. So I really like it a lot. The part of the image that I don't like very much is the background, because there's even though it's sort of simple, we see all kinds of stuff. And I think you can get away with it because it's all pretty similar in color, and you really do stand out as the main subject. But if it had been a little bit simpler background, it would have been even better. The other thing I wonder about, it would have been better if your face was on the right side instead of the left side, but in this image it works. You're looking in this direction. I'm not seeing too big of a problem with that. Here we have a landscape with some horses in the front leading to a nice, I don't know, sunset or sunrise here in the background. I just don't think, I think there's a lot of empty space, and I don't think we see either enough of the horses or enough of the sunrise. It's almost like there's too much going on in the image. The exposure and the sky is nice, having the little birds and the sun. You know, this is an interesting part of the picture. Then we got sort of this not so interesting part of the picture, and then this could be an interesting part of the picture, but we don't see that much detail in the horses. Let me try to bring out some of that with a graduated filter, and we'll brighten that up a bit. Alright, that does bring out... I think it would have helped too if we would have been closer to the horses with a wide-angle lens. It doesn't tell us here what lens this was shot with, but maybe, of course, maybe that was impossible for whatever situation you were in. But I think that's what would have helped. Getting closer to the horses with a wide-angle lens, you would have gotten more detail of the horses and still been able to include the interesting background. Alright, so I hope that helps. Keep working. Bring us some more images for next week. And thanks for all your help. This has been Gary D. Tonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com.